Are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Yeah!
It's showtime, folks!
Throwdown Nation, what is going on? We are live on a Thursday evening. It is August 6th, 2026, and we are rolling on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, and on Twitch. It is episode 258 of the Throwdown. We are the community on the interwebs where we celebrate both the art and the sport of professional wrestling with a strong focus on the indies. We are bringing you engaging and in-depth conversations with the best and brightest on the indie scene worldwide. I'm your host, Matt, and today we are throwing down with a wrestler based in the great state of Indiana. Welcome with me, the one, the only, the living dead girl, Teagan Thorne. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I love the little intro too.
Well, thank you. And for those of you watching live, let me direct your attention to the ticker that's running on the bottom of the screen. That contains all or at least most of Teagan's social media accounts along with mine. So do us a favor, if you aren't following or subscribed, take the time and go to each of our platforms and do so. It definitely helps both of us. Also, and this is a little bit different, for those of you watching that may have an interest in the topic area of true crime in general, but specifically right now the Idaho 4 case, be sure to check out my friend Birdie and the rest of the Hive over at Birdie_HiveMind on YouTube. I'm going to actually throw a QR code up on the screen that'll actually take you straight there. But let me tell you, I'm a bit of a true crime junkie myself, and I absolutely love what this guy is doing. He is really encouraging people to think outside of the box, and and really, like I said, he thinks outside the box and really encourages others to do the same. So if that kind of stuff interests you, definitely take the time and go and check him out. And one final thing before we get started. If you have questions or comments during the show, you can obviously leave those in the chat. But if you are feeling brave, you can scan the QR code that I just put up and actually log into the show, audio only, and make your comment or ask your question. All we ask is that you mute any background audio and be at least reasonably civil in your conversation. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and really the most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
So I've been wrestling since July 2019 when I started at the wrestling school in Madison at Supreme Wrestling, which I had grown up around because my dad had wrestled there. since I was a kid. So I grew up around it. So it was only natural that when I started up there. So that would leave me just now hitting my 7 years mark.
Nice. So you're second generation.
Yes. Yeah. My dad is the wild thing, Chuck McRoberts. He's a Indiana local native. He hasn't really done anything outside of that. But he's wrestled up here in the southern Indiana area for the last 23 years of my life, basically since I was born. So, me and him have tagged. We've done all kinds of stuff together. We've been opponents. We have been anything and everything in between in the ring. But yeah, second generation, and I don't think I could be any prouder of it. You know, I love my dad.
That is awesome. So, who actually trained you? Did your dad take any part in your training, or how did your training process go?
So I started at Supreme Wrestling, which is ran by Eric Draven, and he was a trainer for me. My dad was definitely probably my biggest trainer, especially starting out. Draven, he kind of just oversaw it and everything for me and helped me more as time went on. But my dad and a wrestler by the name of Van Mardigan, who is, in my opinion, one of Indiana's hidden gems in the wrestling business. They played a huge part in my training when I first started, along with a man named Marksman Bud, who is also an Indiana native, but he's dabbled in some work for OVW and stuff in the past, past like few decades. So those three definitely are probably the biggest three. And then I had Draven on top of it, kind of overseeing it all. And then people kind of went in and out as time went on, but I'd say definitely the foundational trainers I had was those three.
Very cool. Looking over at the Instagram chat, we've got a few people filtering in from over in Northern California on the West Coast. We've got 209 Loca, who is actually an upcoming guest on the show. We're going to be doing a Superfan Spotlight episode for her. We've got Ellie JSC, who's hanging out, and we've got The Ox Adams, who has joined as well. So in the early stages of your wrestling training, what would you say was the most challenging aspect of professional wrestling for you to kind of wrap your mind and body around? And I mean, you had kind of grown up in the business, but did anything about the initial part of your training surprise you?
Yes, definitely. Like I grew up around it, so you would think the whole stage fright thing wouldn't be a thing because I've seen it. I've watched other people do it and try and, you know, have to retry again and everything. But for some reason, even though I did theater, even though I had seen it my whole life, stepping into it and finally being the one in the moment, being like, oh, well, I don't want to look goofy. I don't want to look stupid. The stage fright is real. And it took me several years. I mean, like, I got over it initially when I started training, but it took years for me to truly get comfortable in front of a crowd. And I mean, like, to this day, you know, there's still certain ones, like the big debut at a certain show or anything like that, that will still have me so anxious I can't eat all day or I'll get sick. And then I'm like, I need to eat before I wrestle. But for the most part, I've gotten pretty good at being chillaxed and, you know, just going with the flow of things, and definitely trying to be more open to that flow and not worrying about looking goofy was the biggest challenge I had when I first started.
Gotcha. So, you know, it sounds like you had a background as at least something of a theater kid, but did you come to wrestling with any previous athletic or any other type of martial arts type background? Had you done any other sports or anything before taking up the squared circle?
So throughout my late elementary school years and middle school years, I dabbled in and out of like track and field and stuff like that. But I kind of cut sports all together after a car wreck I was in, which left me unable to actively be athletic for like 3 years, which I'll kind of dabble in more later. But after that, I didn't really dabble in anything until I did like color guard flag stuff in high school. I was like a junior, senior. So right about the same time I started wrestling, kind of picked them up at the same time. But I think it gave me the desire to it showed me how much I like performing and how much I like entertaining. And so I had a little bit of that experience going in, and then I had the theater experience through my high school drama club, where I played a silly girl in Beauty and the Beast, one of Gaston's girls, which was funny. And yeah, that stuff kind of all helped build into me finally deciding to just jump in and pursue it.
Gotcha. Yeah, my wife is a relatively recent wrestling fan, and you know, in the early stages of her watching it, there was a point where she turned to me and she said, "These are just really athletic theater kids," and I was like, "Well, kinda, yeah."
I mean, it's not really a lie; it's just really violent theater is the best way I would describe it.
Absolutely. So, you know, growing up in the business, you know, you've obviously literally been a fan from birth. But what would you say is your earliest wrestling-related memory?
So, my earliest wrestling-related memory, I have two because I'm not sure which came first, but I remember them both being like some of my first. When I was younger, I was about, I want to say 6 years old, something like that, maybe 7 or 8. But I was at home and getting ready to go to bed, and I was going through the cable and watching TV and everything. And me and my sister shared a room at the time, and we were trying to find a show for her. And I knew my dad watched wrestling. I knew like the house did. When I was like super young, I hated wrestling. I wanted no part of it. Which was funny. I wanted no part of it. I was like, I'm a girly girl. I don't need it. And I saw when I was scrolling through the channels, it was a clip of Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, the Hardys. Yeah.
Match on an episode of SmackDown. And I remember I kind of stopped. And then I kept going. And my sister was like, wait, can we go back to that? That was kind of cool. Like, she kind of was, like, interested. So I was like, all right, cool. We're going to watch it. And then I ended up watching, like, that whole rest of that episode of SmackDown. And then not long after that, I think it was after that, but I went to an episode of SmackDown / ECW that was filming. And I'll never forget, I can't remember exactly who Jeff Hardy was facing. It was either Edge or CM Punk. But I remember Jeff Hardy came out doing his entrance. He was like the only wrestler I was really into at the time. So I had like his little armbands they sold and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And a shirt of his. And I remember he did his entrance and I was close enough that like, I wasn't like in nosebleed seats or anything. I was pretty close to the floor. And I remember he did his entrance, did his pose in the corner, and I had a moment. It felt like I probably 100% didn't because that's just delusion. But I felt like I had made a moment where I made eye contact with Jeff Hardy, and he like saw me, and I was like, I was freaking out. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And after that, I started to get a little bit more into it, and I started being like, you know what, Dad, I'll actually like go and check out your shows and stuff, and I'll actually pay attention and not read a Diary of a Wimpy Kid book this time. So
nice.
Those are the two first most vivid I could think of, like there.
Very cool. Well, you know, the physical side of this is all obviously extremely important. So tell us a bit about your gym routine, and in your mind, what would you say are the most crucial exercise or group of exercises that you use to keep in ring shape with?
So when I first started, I didn't really get in the gym that much because I wasn't really thinking about it or making it that heavy of a thing. But it's something I picked up after a few years. And when I messed up my knee in a match and had an injury where I had to go to the gym to like do physical therapy to it. And I'm so glad I did, because now there's like different stuff I do that I like rely on. I try and go at least once, twice a week. For wrestling specifically, the ones I focus on doing is I'll focus on doing a lot of leg strength workouts, because for me, even though I am a little bit of a bigger girl, I'm like 210, 215 pounds. And while I can be kind of a powerhouse in lifting, I do better with like my leg muscle. So I do a whole lot of leg day stuff, whole lot of squats, whole lot of RDLs, whole lot of calf extensions and things like that. And then obviously I do a little bit of chest and tricep workout stuff. But I kind of try and do where I combine them into things, like where I'll do dumbbells, but also combine it with like my squats or something like that. And usually after a day or so, I'm feeling like I got ran over by a truck because of it, but it works. So it's helped me stay very active. And I also do, I do a lot of back muscle training, because you don't really realize how much of a toll it takes. Like, obviously you're landing on a mat that's 90% wood, 10% foam, so you should know it's going to impact your back, but you don't think about it. And it got to a point like I was barely able to move, and I was like, I can't do this. So I focused a lot more on my back and my neck training to kind of help with the strength back there, which I think has saved me more than once from like getting injured by messing up my back or my neck, because I have been dropped on my head a few too many times.
Gotcha. Well, a lot of people, I mean, for aesthetic reasons, they will focus on the front of the core and forget the back, and the neck and the spine are part of your core, and so I'm actually glad to hear that you're taking the time to focus on some of that stuff, because I feel like a lot of people forget that part of the core.
Yeah, it's something I feel like definitely, like, even though it's knowledge in wrestling, it's so niche, and I feel like a lot of people just don't think about it, because you're like, what's the chance it's going to happen to me? What's the chance I'm going to be the one that gets it? But then it happens. And like 2 weeks ago, I was in a match where I ended up botching something, and I straight up would have landed on my head if I didn't have like the senses to know I was about to land on my head, and I curled really hard. But also, if I didn't have that neck strength I'd been building, I heard it popping up. I was like, I could have definitely broke that if I had not been prepared. So it definitely works out whenever you need it.
That's awesome. So, sort of piggybacking onto the gym routine question, what is your favorite guilty pleasure cheat day snack of choice?
I actually got it with me right now. Like, it's kind of
what you got?
Really. But I have two things. One is like pasta, straight up pasta. I'll do pasta with butter and cheese. Don't know why, but it is my go-to, is like my favorite thing. My second one, my legit snack, is Takis. I love them so much.
My son loves the purple Takis.
Yes, I like the Fuego ones, the purple and red and green ones. Those are my favorite, but I'll eat the blue ones too. No hate. But they're like my new guilty pleasure snack that I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get some, even though they're really bad for my stomach, but I really want some.
Gotcha. So, away from wrestling, what are some of your hobbies and interests? What do you like to do with whatever spare time you might have?
So, honestly, a lot of my spare time is, let's see, that's a good one. I have a whole book collection. I like to read a lot. I am the type of person, I like to stay very knowledgeable, or I like to learn all the time. So even though like I could be spending my free time doing literally anything else, I usually spend my time reading, watching videos, learning new tricks or new trades, or I dabble in graphic design stuff. So I've self-taught myself that. I'll usually be teaching myself how to sew by hand or something like that. And outside of that, I like to write a lot, like poems, stories, all kinds of stuff like that. And I I watch a lot of anime. That's another thing I do a lot. I watch a lot of anime, a lot of One Piece specifically.
Very cool. Yeah, my wife is actually a knitter. So you know she is heavily into knitting, crocheting, and tea, and consuming tea. So, so what are you reading right now? Are you reading anything cool?
So I'm doing two things kind of at once. Since I do the reanimate her character and do the Living Dead girl thing, which is real, but like times 1,000, I'm like, you know what? I'm finally gonna actually read Frankenstein and Dracula and all them because I know what they are.
Yeah.
But I've never sat down and read them. So I'm currently reading Frankenstein, and then
Mary Shelley. Yeah.
yes, and I'm also reading this. It sounds goofy. I love Disney. So there's this Disney book series that's called Twisted Tales, which like takes fairy tale stories and the classic Disney tales and puts a twist on them for like young adults. And so I'm reading one right now about Alice in Wonderland. Like, what if Alice in Wonderland had gone wrong? And it's kind of in the gothic genre as well, which I think is why it makes sense. And I decided to read both at the same time. But those are the two I'm reading right now.
Very cool. Well, you know, we will be getting into this later in the show, but something that we do in all of these is we have a segment where we let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And one of my recent guests actually posed such a cool question that I actually pulled it into my repertoire, and it's become a permanent part of how I do these. So the question is, if your wrestling career could be summed up in a movie, what movie would it be?
Oh my God, that's a good one.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh. Now I'm like trying to think of every movie I've ever seen. Like, it sounds so goofy to say it, literally, because it's a wrestling movie. But like, if we're talking about a movie that like would sum it up pretty well, Fighting with My Family, the documentary whatever the word is, the real life movie based on Paige's story. I mean, that's pretty accurate to what it is because like we're both second generation, grew up in the business, started out young, trials, tribulations. I have not made it to WWE. I wish. But I mean, it's on a similar level where I'm like going through the waves and ups and downs and trying to reach the bigger promotions and everything like that. So that's probably the closest one that I could think of. But I want to think of something cooler. So probably like, oh, what's this other one? There's this other one I saw the other day that I'm thinking of. I'd probably say like a mix of Fighting with My Family and the Reanimator movie, which is very because clearly inspo from it. But I mean, those are the two because it combines the one who came back to life with the ups and downs of trying to become a pro wrestler.
Absolutely.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, right when he posed it, I was like, "Do you mind if I use this?" And he's like, "Go ahead." And I was like, "Man, that's it was just a question I hadn't even thought of, you know." And just I love little moments like that where you're just like, "Wow, that's magic."
Yeah.
So, outside of wrestling, what person inspires you the most, and why?
I would definitely say it sounds cliche, but like even outside of wrestling, with wrestling aside from both of our lives, my dad is definitely my biggest inspiration. You know, we've basically been, even though we have a fully blended family and step siblings and step brothers and sisters and half brothers, half sisters, me being around kids all the time, there's still times it feels like it's us against the world a lot. And I just know there's so much that he could have done differently or that he's done that he didn't have to. And he's really like pushed not his career, but he's pushed my career with his own so much to try and help me. And he's done so much for me with my mom and him splitting and everything. And, he's took care of me the whole time. So if I didn't have him as my backbone for literally my whole life, I wouldn't even be where I'm at today. I literally wouldn't be where I'm at today without him, in theory. So I definitely say he's my biggest inspiration.
Awesome. At some future point, I need to get him on the show.
Oh, yeah, 100%. He will have so many tales and stories to tell.
Oh, man, we've got to make that happen.
Yes.
So what, you're obviously from Indiana. What is your favorite thing about Indiana?
My favorite thing about Indiana, for me, because I live in southern Indiana, but in where I live at, there's a very embracing environment. At least for me growing up, everyone felt included. The community felt like a real community, and everyone was supporting each other. I mean, when I was in the car wreck when I was 11, they ran a wrestling show with Supreme, and they raised over $1,500 for me and my family to help us, and there's just so many ties I have down here, and everyone's so embracing. I'd say that's probably my favorite part.
Got you. So they say that the best wrestling personas are usually kind of yourself turned up to 11. So kind of tell us about in-ring Teagan Thorne. Tell us about the Living Dead Girl and kind of compare and contrast her with everyday you and sort of tell us how the persona came about and how it's evolved over time.
So this is a story I was kind of getting at earlier. When I was 11, almost 12 years old, me and my dad and my brothers were unfortunately hit by a drunk driver on the highway. And it was a pretty bad car wreck. It left me with a scar you can kind of see the indent of it, but it's from here all the way back to here. And it's where my head came open. And with my skull open, my dad was literally holding it in his hands, to keep me together. And I ended up being pronounced deceased on scene, but then an EMT, did life-saving measures and everything and got me to kind of come back. But they thought I was a goner and I came back. And so that's a part of me. I grew up, had to relearn a bunch of stuff, a lot of physical and mental therapy to go through that. But for a lot of years when I first started wrestling, I kind of didn't acknowledge it. I was just like, whatever, it is what it is. And it finally got to a point I feel like I had healed enough from what had happened that I saw it not as a tragedy, but I also saw it as a strength, showing how strong I am. And so I finally got to the point I was like, you know what? I'm comfortable enough. That's who I am. If you really were to put it simply, I am the girl that came back from the dead. And so best things in wrestling, the best characters are you times 1,000. And I was like, I'm going to take that part of me times 1,000. So I get a little loud, a little screamy a lot of times. And I really embrace the Living Dead Girl monster part of it. But it's obviously me, just a little bit different, a little more aggressive, a little more monster-like than the actual human being. So that's probably the biggest differences.
Gotcha. I'm sure you're taking some inspiration from PCO.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I saw PCO and I was like, okay, I'm not crazy for thinking this would be a cool thing in wrestling because somebody else does it. But I was like, I want to tweak it just a little bit, because I don't want them to be like, oh, well, she's copying PCO or, oh, she's copying The Undertaker. Sorry, Taker, I have a one up on you. Mine's legit. This is my shit. Yep. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely an inspiration, though. And I kind of looked at them to aesthetically figure out how to showcase it.
Yeah. When I've been a fan since I was around 11, and I'll be 57 next month. So, I've been following the business for 40 plus years. Mm-hmm. And one of the early feuds I remember getting invested in was Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan down in Florida. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Sullivan at the time was he had this whole satanic gimmick going on, and in many ways he was sort of the trailblazer for characters like The Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, that kind of thing. So it's been interesting watching these other characters come along over the last 40 years and think back and be like, yeah, they kind of owe Kevin Sullivan a little pat on the back.
Yeah.
But like I said, having been a fan since the early 80s, I've also seen women's wrestling really evolve, obviously. In the 80s to early 90s, it was really just kind of a curiosity. Women were mostly relegated kind of to the role of valet or manager. But you had the Wendy Richters, the Fabulous Moolahs. But I mean, for the most part, it was really sort of a relegated to the shadows. And then, the mid to late 90s happened, and you had the Attitude Era and ECW, and women were shoved to the forefront, but really for all the wrong reasons. I mean, during that time, women were unfortunately objectified, sexualized, etc. Yeah. And that, kind of continued into the early to mid 2000s. And, finally today, as we know, women's wrestling has really evolved to the point where the female wrestlers are regarded finally as athletes and are on a par with and sometimes exceeding their male counterparts, both in, work rate, in-ring ability, all of that. And with all of this history, how do you feel about being a female wrestler in today's environment?
I feel like, I feel honored to be in it, and it's one of the things I'm really proud of. And even when my wrestling career is said and done and when everything's all over, I'm going to be proud of the fact that I even took a chance and did it, because if you would have told me that I would ever be doing anything even similar to what the Bull Nakanos, to what the Alundra Blazes and Victoria's, Melina's, AJ Lee's, Nikki Bella's, all of them throughout the years, because they all worked very hard to get where they needed to in their own way. Sometimes in ring, sometimes in branding. They all played a huge part in helping women's wrestling evolutionize in some way, shape, or form. Without the last, you wouldn't have the next, and vice versa. So I am very proud of what I've accomplished, but I'm also very hungry for more. And I feel like in this day and age, there is so much talent, there is so much competition, and there is so much uplifting wrestlers, now that they want to help everyone succeed for the most part. And I feel grateful to be a part of a division or a women's division across the states that is so uplifting and encouraging to each other. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, a lot of times the women end up having to work harder than the guys just to even show they belong. They have to put more in than the guys. So sometimes they get upset that they might be showing up or showing out or getting more. You could blame it on them being a woman, sure. But at the end of the day, it's because we're all badasses who are busting our asses to get what we want. And so if that's a group I'm in, I'm A-okay with that. I am honored to be in that.
Absolutely. And looking over at the Instagram chat again, we've got a couple more people that have filtered in. We've got a recent guest, a luchador from Ohio, Noro Demora, and an old friend of mine, another masked wrestler from the great city of Philadelphia, Eric X. Black. Man, he was on. He and his wife have both been on the show, and man, Eric is cool. He is actually one of my favorite people in the business. But so tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? And what were your thoughts?
So my very first match was it was at a church.
Okay.
And it was in January of 2020. So right before the pandemic. But we had my debut match. It was a tag team match. I had been ring announcing for the last 6 to 8 months before that while I was training to get me kind of comfortable in front of the crowd to the point I'd be ready for a match. It was me and a girl named Lily Lockhart, who I tagged with, against her sister and her mom, Xana Storm, and her mom, and Jenna Storm. I had to think of her first name. Xana Storm and Jenna Storm. It was definitely a match that happened. I was very nervous before it, so like I did what I could, and I definitely feel like I kind of got carried through it in a sense. Like the rest of the parts, besides my little inputs I had, because they did a good job protecting me. But it was a fun match. It's definitely one I'll never forget. We ended up having a near wardrobe malfunction, which was terrifying. Like 2 minutes into the match, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go. But it was so much fun, and I had so much adrenaline going. And I remember I was so excited, so nervous, but so proud I'd even gotten to the point where I was doing that. So all of them girls have my heart. Like, I love them all so much. To this day, they're my girls. And, yeah, it's like, in a way, a first match could go. It could have went a lot worse, and it didn't, and I'm very grateful for it, and I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So we've heard about the first one. Now, if you can narrow it down, tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
This is hard. Because I would say probably my favorite match I have had. And yeah, my favorite match I've had would probably be my match with I just had a huge brain fart. Of course I did. It's a toss-up. So I have two. I know it's cheating.
Okay.
I'll probably figure out my favorite.
That's fine. That's fine.
I had a match against Ashlyn Alexander at Hooligan Championship Wrestling earlier this year, actually, matter of fact. And in that match, I mean, she's a girl I faced before in tag action, so I know her, and I feel like we did really well. And it was probably one of my favorite matches because I had so much fun. I went out there not worrying about anything. Like, anxiety was very minimal. I was just winging it, and I was having a great time. And it's a match I'm still actually really proud of. Probably my other one that I'm like might be my favorite is my match I had with Billy Starks from AEW Ring of Honor.
Oh, yeah.
I had a match with her in 2022 at New Era Wrestling in Shelbyville, Indiana. I ended up getting brought in as a replacement for another girl that got injured. But, I mean, look at where Billy has went now. You know, she's a freaking star. And I remember in that match, I was really proud of it because I felt I really kind of held my own in it. And she's such a nice girl, and I had a great time working her. I hope someday we can work again because I know that I've grown so much since then. I know there's so much more I'd want to do with her in a match now that, like, I wouldn't have done back then because I wasn't as confident. But that match helped really build my confidence up. And so it's like, a toss-up between those, probably. I lied. I'm sorry. I lied. My favorite one probably would be a match I had in July. It was me and Leela Feist against the team of the Hex, which is Marty Bell and Allison Kay. I don't know why I forgot Kay, but Marty Bell and Allison Kay. Two girls I also looked up to a lot growing up, watching the Mae Young Classic when I got into wrestling. And I had a tag match with them, and it was a dream because fangirl in me was freaking out. But I had a lot of fun. I got to do my spooky girl stuff, and I felt like we meshed really well, even though we were opponents in a tag team match. But I felt like my stuff really meshed really well working with them, and so I had so much fun with it. So I was totally supposed to give one, and I just gave you three. Please forgive me.
Hey, that's the fun of the show. Just seeing where the conversation takes us.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for 7 years, and, that's long enough that I'm sure you've developed at least some of these. But what would you say is your biggest wrestling-related pet peeve?
Oh, probably like it's not really a pet peeve, but it's just something that I'm like, I guess it is a pet peeve. I get really annoyed about it, but it's like, especially when you're wrestling with somebody, I really, really hate the concept of like full on chasing somebody around the ring. Like, they should be coming to you, or you should be stalking them and waiting for them to get up. Don't be, boom, I knock you down. Now I'm going to pick you back up, even though I just got you down and I should totally go for a pin. That's one of probably my biggest pet peeves is that. And also, stinky gear. Wash y'all's freaking gear, nasties.
Yep.
That's like not direct wrestling, but part of wrestling. That is a huge pet peeve of mine, is stench. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets a little sweaty. Sometimes the suitcase just gets like a little musty scent to it. Carry some Febreze or something and just at least try to spray it and get it cleaned down, Put some dryer sheets in there. Do something.
Yep.
Don't just like leave it to smell like wet dog.
Exactly. I've never done professional wrestling training, but a few years back, I trained for several years in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And there was always one guy at the dojo who wouldn't wash his gi. And so I'm completely with you.
Yeah.
Stinky gear is just the worst.
Yeah. Also, for men specifically, my pet peeve is when y'all have super, super long armpit hair. I get it. I don't expect y'all to shave it all the time, but if you're putting someone in a headlock and you're shoving their face in your pit, please do not have armpit hair as long as my hands. That's gross and sweaty and gets really gross. I've had that happen, and I almost threw up so fast. It was disgusting.
Well, they say it's a jungle out there.
Yeah, I'm not trying to explore that jungle. I'm good.
So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? Is there a match or matches that are just near and dear to your heart that you find yourself circling back to?
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
What you got?
It's probably an all-time one is definitely like, I'm thinking of like one that I watched as a kid or one that like I remember really sticking with me. And one that really, really stuck with me was Paige versus Emma at NXT, like crowning the women's champion for NXT at the time. It was very different because compared to what you saw on Raw and SmackDown with all the diva stuff going on, which was fine, but when you had the very more technical and very more wrestling showcase type stuff going on NXT, I remember that one stuck with me a very lot. Like, that was my Bayley and Sasha Banks for me as a kid. Like, Bailey and Sasha Banks was also a masterclass. But Paige and Emma was the one for me that I grew up and I was like, that is it. That's the one. I want to do this.
Very cool. So, piggybacking onto that question, do you have an all-time favorite promo as a fan?
Yeah. I would say probably my favorite promo as cliche as it gets, because I'm sure it's an answer you've heard quite a few times, but CM Punk's pipe bomb promo is probably my favorite because just obviously it became one of the most talked about promos in modern day, right? There's no lying about that. Whether it was all him telling the truth and spitballing, or whether it's, he threw jabs in there or something. At the end of the day, it kept everybody talking, and it did when it needed to. And I remember as a kid being so shook about it. I was like flabbergasted. So that's probably the best promo I could think of, like the one that I most memorize and still consider a great promo.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Him and MJF are probably my two that like have my two favorites. MJF's against him before an all-out show is probably my second one that I really love, where he talks about as a kid growing up watching him and really turned it into looking at what you became and everything. And I'm like, they know how to pull at the strings of my heart.
Yep. So, I don't know if you caught it, but did you catch Grayson Waller's promo on NXT recently? He sort of cut a pipe bomb of his own.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Grayson Waller. My dad watches wrestling a little bit, still nowadays. He doesn't dabble in it as much as I do, because obviously as the years have grown on, he's like watched it, but he doesn't connect with it the same,
Right.
But Grayson Waller is one of his favorites. So it's funny you mention that, because the other day we watched it because he came to me about it and was like, hey, you should watch this really cool Grayson Waller promo that Grayson Waller did, because it popped up on my feed and I really like it. And I'm just saying that's why he's really good and one of my favorites. And I went, okay, Dad. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, that actually is really good. Can't lie. I like it. I'm also an instigator. I love creating chaos, especially in wrestling. So I eat it up.
Oh, yeah. Definitely good stuff. So this is one of these questions that the answer can literally change moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day. But at this very moment, in your opinion, who are the best male and best female wrestlers in the world? Who is the best man and who is the best woman?
Ooh,
it's tough.
It is tough. Oh, hi, Chocolate. This is my dog. You can't see her. I love her. She's my chocolate lab. She's so sweet.
Nice. Love dogs.
Yes. Probably, God, that is a hard question. So, right now, for men, probably, I'm going to say, in my opinion, based on what I've watched, whether it's episodes or clips on social media and marketing and everything, I'm going to say probably the four guys I could think of is, I would say Seth Rollins, because he is one of the biggest in wrestling right now. Second one would probably be, I would say Kyle Fletcher in AEW.
Yeah.
Because, he's doing a lot right now. At least it's caught my eye. And I'm like, he's kind of cooking. Third one is Will Ospreay, because that man can literally do pretty much everything somehow.
Yeah.
And the fourth one would probably be, I would say, based on his work in the past, but also because I know how good he can pull at emotions, would be Kevin Owens, who just came back.
Yes.
He is.
And what a return.
I know. I saw it and I was literally screaming in my living room and I was like, Kevin Owens is back! I was freaking out. I was so excited.
Yeah, because I was not convinced he was coming back.
No, I thought he called it a day, and I was like, you know what? With everything that man has done, I completely understand if he just decides to say peace. That is A-okay. That is like, he has earned it. And when he came back, I was like, yes. For women, oh, that one's hard too. For women, I would probably say right now the best in the world would be Roxanne
Teagan Thorne.
Perez. Roxanne Perez is probably my biggest one right now because, I mean, she's calls herself the prodigy, but she's literally a prodigy. She's the youngest one on the roster, and she's killing it right now. By the way, let's just emphasize that. Second one would probably be I would say probably Mercedes Moné. I mean, unexplainably, she's a freaking star. She knows what she's doing. Third one would probably be, I want to say, might seem kind of random, recently signed to TNA, the homie, the know-me, Gabby Forza. She's probably one of my favorites right now. I've watched a lot of her stuff, and I think she is phenomenal. And, I mean, even just the potential she has in the next, 3 or 4 years that she hasn't already gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And my fourth one would probably be one of my favorites, my girl Rhea Ripley, even though she is out with an injury, because she has been such a huge staple of women's wrestling in general, and I think gave a resurgence to women that didn't fit the typical mold of a women's wrestler, which
absolutely
the mold of a women's wrestler. So I really resonate with it.
Absolutely. You know, something that I am looking so forward to now that they are both in the same company is eventually I am dying to see Rhea Ripley and Jordynne Grace work a program together.
Yes.
I think those two could tear the house down. I mean,
100%. I want to see that match so bad. I want to see more Jordynne Grace, period, on my TVs.
Same here. Same here. So, what is your favorite move? What is something you just really enjoy doing? And then on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you would at least rather not do, and that can be giving or receiving?
So, my favorite move probably to do is the chick kick, one of Trish Stratus' staples. I have a lot of fun doing it, and I just really enjoy it, and it always surprises people when I can do it because, they just don't expect me to be flexible enough to be able to hit chick kick. But I can hit it on pretty much anybody, any height, any shot, any shape or size. Doesn't matter. So that one's probably my favorite because it's also the easiest for me. I don't really stress a lot about it. Probably one move I wouldn't take is... It's a move I say I wouldn't take. I should stop taking it because every time I do, I hurt myself because girl can't really jump like I wish I could. Is an exploder suplex. I wish I had enough jumping height to be able to do that successfully, but almost every time I do it, I mess it up and almost get myself killed. So that's probably the one that now I'm like, I'm going to start probably saying no to it or start being like, I'd really rather not. It's had too many times of hitting my head and I went, all right, yeah, this time to call quits on that one.
Gotcha. So a move that is not currently in your moveset, But if you could snap your fingers and suddenly be able to do perfectly, what move would it be?
I would probably say, if I could snap my fingers and just be able to do it, I would want to do the Black Widow, AJ Lee's submission.
Yeah.
I could probably try to do it if I want to. I know my limits. I am a bigger girl. I'm not going to try and make somebody hold me. But if I was to where I could easily whip that out any day of the week, 100% the Black Widow. It's a sick submission.
It is. It is. You know, that's a move that's just fun to watch.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, again, you've been doing this for 7 years, so this probably applies to one degree or another, but I'll ask, what hurts right now?
Right now, probably what hurts the most is like right under my neck and right at the top of my back. Because it gets that moment where you're just like, all right, I need to pop it and do something. That spot right there is definitely what's hurting me most right now, which could be from wrestling, could be from just my posture combining with it. I don't know, but that's definitely the one that hurts the most.
Gotcha. So what is the worst bump you have taken?
Probably the worst bump I've ever taken would be, at one point I was doing something where I got attacked by somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but I'll never forget, they told me, they said, no, I don't want to give you the curb stomp because that's too brutal. Instead, I'm going to pick you up like I would for a pedigree and instead drop you down onto my knee. And I went, and instead of just drop you down like that, I'm going to drop you to my knee. And I went, that sounds a little more brutal, but okay, we'll try it. And we did it. And I remember their knee hit my face and I felt my nose squish and my nose bled and my lip got busted. And I was like, ow, that really hurt. And they went, why did you turn your head? And I went, I thought your knee was coming at me the other way. I don't know. That really hurt. I'm sorry. I might be concussed right now. My bad. And the concept of that not being as cruel as a curb stomp, the sentence is funny to me. So that's probably the worst one I've ever taken.
Gotcha. So, knowing everything you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
If I could give any advice to my younger self, it would be, don't rush and don't be so hard on yourself. Like, don't be so hard on yourself about not picking it up fast enough, about not getting it fast enough. You know, because I'm just now finally getting to the point where I'm comfortable and I really feel like I'm truly bringing out my best work, my best character work and everything, and wrestling work. And, you know, I used to give myself a really hard time. Like, on one hand, it made me who I am today, but also I feel like I could have gotten here. I didn't need to be so hard on myself. I was my own worst critic times 1,000, and I didn't need to be. So if I could tell myself anything, it would be, don't be so hard on yourself. You're learning. It's okay. It's part of it.
Absolutely. And
as a second generation, I felt like I needed to pick it up like that, and I wasn't. So.
Right. Well, you know, we can all be our own worst enemy. Our own worst critic, our own this, our own that. But you know, I've really discovered over the years the importance of showing yourself grace, because nobody else is going to, you know. So you know, be your own friend. I mean, rather than being your own enemy.
Yeah.
So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
So normally my pre-show traditions is normally if I have headphones or something, I'll kind of lock in and listen to some music while I'm doing my makeup or my face paint to kind of help amp me up mentally. But also, I get my stretches in if I can, because like I don't want a chance getting injured out there, and I want to be loose and not so stiff and limber and everything. So definitely locking in mentally with my makeup and stuff, because I'm a very artsy person. So that's something I'm like, it helps relieve stress for me. And then my stretching, because that's always important. Get your stretches in. No matter how many times you think you don't need them, get your stretches in. You will thank yourself many years down the line. I wish I had been doing it when I first started, and I didn't, because I was stupid and young.
Absolutely. So tell us about your gear bag. Just give us a rundown of your gear bag and what all do you carry in your gear, and do you carry anything unique or unusual?
So in my gear bag, normally I have obviously my gear. Usually I have two, because I'll try and do two different colors or something. That way, I have
You gotta have options.
yeah, I have options. I have a different color to whoever it is I'm wrestling, because I don't want to look the same as them. I want them to know who I am. I don't want them to mix us up. I'm me. So I'll usually have two different colors of gear, have my knee pad, kick pad stuff and all that, my shoes, athletic tape for my wrist and everything. Sometimes some straight up regular wrist tape like from CVS. I'll usually carry that Febreze spray I talk about, because
Oh yeah.
stink. I'm good. Carry deodorant, perfume, the whole stuff and things. Dryer sheets as well. Those are very important for me. They help soak up all the nasty muck in my bag, at least to me. Probably the most unique thing I keep in my bag is the amount of hair accessories at this point that I keep in my bag. Because I could keep that in my purse or in my makeup bag or something. I don't. It's all stored in my suitcase for some reason. My clips, my hair ties, my hair bows, all of it.
Gotcha. So we're at the point in the show right now where like I said, we've done this in every episode, and we let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So last night I had a wrestler from Buffalo, New York on the show, the Power Snake Sebastian Braun. And the question that he posed, he sort of riffed off of the earlier question that I asked, and he asked, "What song sums up your wrestling career?"
I would say probably. What's it called? I would probably say, God, that's hard. See, that's a good question.
Yeah. Hang on a quick second while you're thinking.
It's all good. I'll think.
Had to show off my dog. Yeah. This is Lady. She hangs out down here in my little studio area a lot. She was upstairs and just came down, so whenever she comes down, she gets on the show. So,
oh, hi, Lady. You're so cute.
My wife calls her my Velcro dog. So,
Probably for me, I would say the song that summarizes the most is a song by Skillet called Rise, which makes sense because literally rising, but also it's very uplifting and it's very much so talking about like a revolution and being part of a revolution and being part of like the new wave, you know?
yep. Love Skillet.
Yes, I love Skillet. People hate on me
Ab-
all you want. I don't care that they're Christian rock or whatever. I love Skillet.
Absolutely great band. Love John Cooper. So, during his farewell tour, John Cena kept bringing up the concept of leaving wrestling better than he found it. And, that really resonated with me. I just thought, well, what a cool thing to strive for. And I've sort of incorporated that into my question repertoire. So you're obviously a long way from being done with your wrestling career. But what do you hope to do to ultimately leave wrestling better than you found it?
Honestly, I want to try and help leave it better than I found it in terms of like true, like genuine, like uplifting and camaraderie amongst not just like people that are in a training class or anything, but older wrestlers with newer wrestlers and really uplifting them because that's like an ongoing battle, you know? I feel like everybody's going to say they want to do that in some way, shape, or form, but it's true. Like now, even though I still have a ways to go, clearly, before my career calls it to an end, but I'm already at the point I want to help more people get like up there. And I know like I'm not no WWE, AEW superstar, TNA superstar, anything like that, but I feel
Yet.
like I do enough that I want to help elevate other people. I want to help these girls coming in and really showcase them and what they can bring to the table and what makes them unique, you know? And I feel like eventually everyone hits that point where they want to kind of uplift and everything as part of the business. But that's my favorite thing. It's been my favorite thing for a hot minute to just help showcase other people. And some people might say that'll be like the death of me in terms of wrestling, but it's probably my favorite thing. I like uplifting other people and helping them succeed as well, not just me. Because if one of us is going to succeed and eat at the successful table, I want us all to eat a little bit.
Absolutely. And, the business is in such a cool position right now that, a rising tide lifts all ships. And, there's room enough for everybody. And there is a flavor of wrestling out there to suit any taste.
Literally.
There is so much good content out now. It's hard to find time during the week to consume everything you want to consume.
Yeah, there's so much out there, and it's like, also it's nice because it shows everyone you don't have to make it to a certain point to succeed, you know?
Exactly.
Like, I've gotten to the point I feel like I'm succeeding because I'm at the point I'm helping uplift other people and help other people entertain as much as I try to entertain and trying to help them find what they feel will make them successful, whether that's getting signed to somewhere super big time on TV or whether that's like making the towns and traveling and get your name out there locally and everything or internationally through the states. It's I want to help everyone else find their own success. I feel like that's my favorite part about wrestling now is there's no one way to succeed. There is multiple.
Exactly. So we're pretty much at the end of things now. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you want to give some hype to?
Yes. So I have a show coming up this Saturday, actually. It is one of the big shows with my home promotion, Supreme, that's running in Madison, Indiana at the classic downtown theater, the Ohio Theater in downtown Madison, which is a beautiful city. It's a big show they do only every couple months, usually once, twice a year. And it's coming up Saturday, and I'm very excited for it. I also have coming up in like a week. It should be getting announced shortly here, so I'll go ahead and say it here. But I will be making my return to a promotion I have not been in since I first started wrestling called Girl Fight Wrestling, which is now ran
Cool.
by Billy Starks and her family. And so Teagan Thorne will be making her debut as Teagan Thorne, but my return is me back to Girl Fight Wrestling. So I am very excited about that.
That is awesome. And I've got to thank you for your time. This has been such a cool conversation. And, hearing the story behind the Living Dead girl, man, that is so inspiring. A long time ago, previous to what I'm doing now, I used to be a firefighter paramedic. So, hearing, trauma care is still in my heart. And hearing about literal miracles like you experienced, just man, I just eat that stuff up. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. And
absolutely, thank you.
And you can definitely consider yourself to be part of the Throwdown family. And anytime you want to come back, if you've got something to talk about, just give me a holler and we'll definitely make it happen. And for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and such, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, definitely do the old like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as far as what we've got coming up on the Throwdown, this coming Monday, August the 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is 6 p.m. Central Time, we've got episode 259, and our guest is an Illinois-based wrestler, the Savior, David Ali. And then Thursday, August 13th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got episode 260, and our guest is Marvelous in Motion himself, Chris Marvelous. And as things stand right now, I am actually booked through the third week of September. So, I've sort of hit a sweet spot of being booked roughly a rolling 6 weeks out, and that's worked out really well. And like I said, some cool stuff is coming, so definitely keep an eye on my socials. And so until this coming Monday, the 10th, with David Ali, be good to each other, love each other, and let's keep throwing down.